All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to the City of Chubbuck Land Use Development Commission. This is a regular meeting, August 25th, 2026. Does any member of the commission have a conflict of interest they would like to disclose? All right, seeing none, I will move to the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all stand with me if you're able, and I'll lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, has everyone had a chance to review the July 14th? What?
He just has no screen. I was telling him.
Oh, okay. Has everyone had a chance to review the July 14th minutes? I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes from July 14th, 2026.
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Okay, we have two public hearing items this evening before us. And the way we conduct our public hearings is we will have a presentation by the applicant. At that time, the commission members may ask questions of the applicant. We will then have a report by city staff. At that point, the commission members may ask city staff questions. We will then open the public hearing for comments in favor, neutral, and then in opposition. Each person addressing the commission must use the microphone and give their name and address for the record. And at that time, all comments should be directed to the commission only and not to the audience. Then we will allow the commission to address anything. And then, we will then close the public hearing once we hear from in favor, neutral, and against. And then the applicant will then have time for rebuttal. And at that time, the commission will discuss the action that they will take this evening. There will be no discussion between the applicant and the audience either. Okay, so public hearing item 1 is an application for a rehearing to consider a conditional use permit for loft-style townhomes in the general commercial C2 zone. The Chubbuck 2045 Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map designates this area for commercial development. The subject property comprises approximately 0.4 acres and is located at 111 West Briscoe Road. The application will be reviewed against criteria in section 18.28.020.c.5 of City Code. And the type of action this evening by the commission will be a decision. Applicant. Please introduce yourself and you have the floor.
Commission, thank you. Joshua Reg, Sunrise Engineering, 600 East Oak Street, Pocatello, Idaho. Thanks for having me back. I'll give a quick review, I guess, from the last meeting about the project. Again, this is 9 townhome-like style homes located in a commercial 2 general lot. We're asking for a conditional use permit. Per the last meeting, a few of the action items that you requested of me that I do my best to address was to increase the radius of the approach. So I did those and increased them to what I felt was and what our team felt was still aesthetically look good for the project and still adhere to what our goals were and what we were hoping for. I did report back to the developer and our client the requests that you had to maybe reduce a couple of the homes and to kind of look at maybe adjusting a few of those things. He said he looked at them, took a couple days, got back to us. He said it just didn't fiscally make sense where initially in the design review, he already had to drop a building in order to help meet code that staff wanted. And so he just said it didn't make sense and he couldn't make it work to drop any more buildings. So our team, we tried to figure out maybe some different configurations to help address a couple of the concerns that we had last time with, maybe the dumpster pad or the parking. And so we worked together, tried to come up with a few other options, and we still felt that this was the best one that just made sense with the size of the lot, unfortunately. And that's unfortunately that means that there wasn't really a whole lot of changes from the last meeting other than, enlarging that entrance radius into the parking lot, making those a little bit larger. So I guess I can have any questions, I guess, if you guys have any for me. Anything that I did in between then and now.
Are there any questions for the applicant? All right, not at this time.
Thank
We
you.
will now move for a city staff report.
Thank you. Don Matson, Planning Manager. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, if you could speak up a little bit more.
Okay.
Thank you.
As we discussed last time, the lots development, the main concern for staff was that radius and increasing it as much as possible. So Joshua has done that with us. We may meet a little bit more in the future to make sure we've got everything squared away as directed. But staff did review thoroughly with the design review and totally supports the design that's before you. Also, in the C2 zone, normally we'd be careful or not supportive of a residential in the C2 zone. However, this parcel has been very difficult to develop as commercial or any other use. Probably once a year in my 7 years here at City of Chippewa, I've talked to someone who wanted to develop that and couldn't come up with a design and that would work physically or fiscally. So staff is in support of this in every way. Do you have any questions for me at this time? I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for city staff?
Yeah, I have one question there. There was some comments written in writing about this proposal. Did the city or did the applicant make any effort to address those concerns from the public?
We have looked,
written public?
yeah, we looked at them. Some of the comments were about the width of Belva, which has already been built. There wouldn't be any advantage to widen it at this point or at this time, without making that requirement of everyone along the street. Whereas this is just the last few feet of Belva. Also the traffic for 9 units at the very most is going to put out 7 or 8 trips out of the driveway at rush hour. The trash truck, it would be about 5 minutes a week. That would be affecting, anyone coming or going. But that's not usually a problem anywhere else in the city where you have the drivers looking out for, they pause and wait for someone, a pedestrian or a car. This is a special site where it is so close to the intersection, but this was the best layout that we could work out with the applicant. The other concerns were, I believe those were the main 2 concerns, the safety for the pedestrians, also the width of the street. We did look through all those again after the design review and after receiving the comments. We still have the same recommendation.
Any other questions for city staff at this time? All right, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. At this time, I will ask anybody who is in favor and wishes to testify to please come forward. All right, seeing none, I will ask anybody that is neutral to the application to come forward. Also seeing none, I will ask anyone who is opposed to the application to please come forward. All right, and ask for your name and address for the record, please, and then the floor is yours.
Terry Udy, 5423 Yellowstone is a place of business for us. I have concerns with this being commercially zoned to put more residential in the area, more high impact volume of vehicles on that road. I still don't see any improvement of anything that was asked in the last meeting from them. And my concerns with the dumpster still feel there's a line of sight issue with that. We see the issues with the townhouses to the north being where they're at on the Yellowstone is a fight. We hear a lot of complaints from our customers of being able to get onto Yellowstone safely. We've had a few accidents there since then. That lot, being that it's been hard to develop on, has never been in sale for 23 years of being there in business. So to say that is hard for me to understand how that would be even something we could say, because there's never been up for sale. It never has been. I like the turn radiuses. That does help us there. Still concerned about there not being the 30-foot city turn radius, that we're allowing that to be a 25-foot radius there. I still concerned with the buses being able to turn there, cars meeting together at that intersection of Belvin and Briscoe. Concerns of the garbage truck backing out onto there. We still see there being an issue in my eyes, that there's the concerns you guys have brought up about cars backing out onto there. And never seen no improvements to that myself. So I'm totally opposed against it. I still think we should leave it commercial and give someone a chance to develop that in a commercial zone. That's all I got to say. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else that wishes to testify?
Hello, Katie Udy, Top Spot Childcare, 5423 Yellowstone, Chubbuck. Just wanted to bring up something that just actually happened to us yesterday with the whole garbage cans and everything backing up. We have some children that have behavioral issues and they run from their parents. Yesterday, we chased one through the lots as she was running from her mom. So that is just another thing. If one of our kids get away from the parent, is kind of a concern as well, with the backing, all that kind of stuff. So that's just something other. And then we didn't see no snow removal or anything like that you guys talked about the last time. So that's it.
I do have a question for you. Is there currently any sort of fence or barrier between your property and this property?
None.
None. Okay.
Well, it's my little fence.
Oh,
Yes.
for like a playground or something you have?
Yeah,
or- Okay.
yeah, it's our little side fence. We got probably about 12 foot of chain link that is going to be our emergency exit. We were just kind of waiting to see what happened with the lot,
Okay.
so.
All right. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to testify? All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and invite the applicant back up. If you wish to address anything that's been discussed.
Thank you, Commission. Yeah, again, I'll address a couple of the comments that were brought up. With the traffic impact, we did perform a traffic impact statement to determine peak hour flow of vehicles there. The peak hour flows for AM and PM from adding this is 4 vehicles, which didn't warrant anything from staff or trying to do anything there. It didn't add an additional impact with 4 vehicles in the AM and the PM. Sight distance of the dumpster pad was included. That one, we tried to move the dumpster pad, as was discussed before, to help, and was the garbage truck, because we hear those comments, but this was the best thing that we could come up with, because it's either we put it on Briscoe Road or we put it next to the daycare, which we just felt that the best place here. And that does, if that encroaches in the sight distance, I can't verify to that because it's not built and I don't really know what it's gonna look like. The 25-foot radius on the corner, is actually up per to the city code. That's what the city requires, and so that's why we maintain that. For school buses specifically, and for all other traffic turning down the main road from Briscoe to Belva. So that does meet code. It's the 30-foot radius entering the property is the one that we've been working and have been in contact with, me specifically been in contact with Dawn to try and find something that the city can work with. You know, there hasn't been a whole lot of contact with Dawn yet where this is a conditional use permit. It's not a preliminary plat or a final plat. You know, it doesn't really make sense for us to put in a whole lot of time now to show you something. But upon approval of this, you know, we would work with staff for preliminary plat, final plat, and construction plans to have something that met and that the staff felt that was satisfactory for the lot. And so, yeah, those were a couple of the comments, I guess, that I caught. Is there any other questions that I can answer for you guys? Being back up here?
You may have addressed this before, so just remind me, I guess, does the owner plan, is this going to be a one lot plat essentially, like one ownership for the entire development?
No, so this will be individual buildings and individual investors that he has that will come in and so each one of these buildings will be its own lot. So in total, it'll be 10 lots, 9 for the building and then 10 for the open space and general area.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Ms. Udi brought up snow removal. Do you know, did you have a chance to address that with the owner at all or have any plans for? Does he have
Yeah,
plans?
that was one of the things that I brought up to him about how he would like to approach the snow removal or how they plan to. And his suggestion was either kind of putting it where you see the proposed storm basin there or placing it on the south side of the dumpster pad, you know, while also adhering to, of course, we don't want to have a giant snow pile somewhere that again would limit sight distance on the turning onto Yellowstone. So kind of using both those spaces the best that we can.
I brought up fencing with the joiner. Does the owner, do you know any plans to fence the property or any portions of it?
There was currently no plans to add any fence on the property. No.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, seeing none.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll let you sit down, and if we have any other questions, we might bring you up. All right, commission, this is a decision. What would you like to do?
Maybe a question for staff.
Yes, Dawn. For Dawn?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're saying no fencing, but there's no requirement for fencing behind that establishment between them and any of the neighborhood
No,
with the daycare behind them?
no. There is, you have that ability to ask that condition of on a conditional use permit, things that help it, anything buffer, but normally it's the commercial that would need to buffer from residential, not vice versa. There'll be much more activity every day at the daycare than there will be at these apartments for 9 units. Same with traffic and everything else.
And the city just requires one handicap spot in that development?
Yes, and it's not a city requirement. It's actually the ADA is a federal Department of Justice oversees that. We do offer that suggestion, and 1 space per 26 is supposed to be handicap. So there's only 20, I think, on this, or 18.
All right, thank you.
Looking for some thoughts or a motion?
My thought is there should be some fence.
Your microphone, please. Thank you.
I'm saying my thought is I would believe that we would require some fencing between them and the neighbor. If they can, you know, get together and do it, I don't care, but somewhere I think there needs to be some fencing there.
Yeah, that is something that is, would say commonly required, or sorry, asked of the commission to, as a condition on these sorts of developments. So, yeah, I think I would probably agree that at least that south boundary may need to be fenced. Yes, please.
I know fencing and also the line of sight, or we have a couple of terms for it, just the corner sight triangle. It's not, it used to be shaped like the chamfer there at the corner, a triangle. It is now much differently shaped for the access management guidelines.
Yes.
It starts 15 feet back from the curb, not 35 or 40 feet, and it's a long, thin triangle. So the dumpster is way out of that site design triangle. If a fence needs to go close to the curb, it's always requested that it be no higher than 3 feet. So a standard car, not a big SUV, but a standard car, like my wife drives, they can still see over a 3-foot fence. And
Would that be on the, I guess if we're talking on the south boundary or the north,
near a driveway or near a corner.
near driveway or corner? Okay.
But again, there are no permits for fences. That is, most people call and ask, and we do tell them if it's a problem, well, they'll have to redo it, but there's no permit required.
Okay. So we've talked about a few things that we had questions or concerns about before. So I guess I'd just ask for your thoughts on those items.
Try and gather my thoughts. I appreciate the applicant's desire to try and maximize and infill within our city. Clearly have lots that we are vacant, like this one, that we'd like to see some infill, some revenue from, and some development from to help grow Chubbuck. That's a goal of the commission. However, I have some hesitation with some of the requests of the commission from last time to help mitigate some of these issues that the public has expressed through this hearing and the last hearing. And so although I appreciate their willingness to do this without really tracking and knowing exactly how many times this has been up for sale or what, and getting into any of that, I think there could be some improvements still here. I think there's some safety issues with backing a dump truck out.
Dumpster truck?
Yeah, dumpster or garbage truck out of there. We've talked with staff about that before and discussed that it does meet guidelines or code review. However, I would be interested to know if there's a code where we can back a dump truck in, within 25 feet of another intersection. It represents a safety issue to me, along with snow removal. We live in Idaho. We get varying amounts of snow each year, and you're going to end up trucking snow out of here on a bad year and having snow issues in this development. I don't see how that's going to be advantageous to the owners of these properties. As well, I believe this would be the only dumpster location on the Yellowstone corridor along that stretch along Yellowstone. We try and avoid dumpsters out along the Yellowstone corridor to help keep our city standards high, and so that as people drive through, they don't have to look at other people's trash that's been left out by an overfilling dumpster from a number of units. So I appreciate the applicant's willingness to try and fix some of these issues, but as far as a conditional use permit, personally, I don't see it.
Okay. So I would, I guess, as part of our review, we have some findings that have to be met in order to approve the conditional use permit. So I guess a couple of those are is generally, the proposed use is generally not in conflict with the goals, objectives, and policies of the adopted comprehensive plan. I do think what you said about infill and the Yellowstone corridor and those sorts of things, I do believe that would, that I believe the proposed use is not in conflict with the comp plan. So I do believe it satisfies that objective or finding, excuse me. Number 3 in our packet is the proposed use is compatible with other existing and permitted uses in the general vicinity. I probably think what you said speaks to that one a little bit. Being that it is a commercial zone and this is a conditional use and it's, I guess it's zoned that way for a reason. And granted, they are going through the process to get permitted for that use, which is the residential. But there is a commercial use next door, which is a daycare. So I think that definitely needs to be considered. So I feel the same way, I guess. I'm a little torn because of the property and appreciating the fact that infill development is important in our community. And it does bring value. But with that, there's certain things that do need to be considered. And I think safety is a big part of that. And I also, I agree with your statement too about the dumpster along the Yellowstone corridor. That is a goal of the, it may not be an official goal, so I shouldn't say that, but that I understand of the city is that the Yellowstone corridor it's important to our city and it should stay and be improved to high standards. So those are just a couple of my thoughts. Does anyone else have anything right now?
I kind of take the opposite opinion. I looking at the findings of fact and conclusions of law, and with city staff recommendations, I think that it meets the legal requirements that they're required to follow to be able to place this on this property. Would I like to see one less unit? Absolutely. I think that it'll alleviate a number of concerns. But at the same time, I think they've worked at least on a plan to address the concerns that city staff had, and would continue to work with them throughout the process there. So I think from the findings of fact and conclusions of law standpoint, they've met their burden.
Yes, go ahead.
Honestly, given everything that has been talked about here, I think they've met all of the requirements. I don't see any reason for us to hold it up longer. I would make a motion to approve.
With conditions as set forth by city staff.
Correct. I would like to see, some fencing around the dumpster, some fencing on the property, but I don't know realistically, I don't know what our opportunities are there. I think fencing would probably help alleviate some of the safety concerns that we have, but
The city already requires a dumpster enclosure on all 4 sides of the gate that opens. So unless that blows down, it shouldn't be visible from Yellowstone. Or maybe the lids are open, but it shouldn't be visible at all. So we require that of every new development. Not like the older ones where you see the dumpster sitting there in the parking lot. This would be a better situation. But your conditions can include more landscaping, fencing. It's more aesthetic on 3 sides, but the south side may be for a good buffer than not adding a new fence.
There's nothing in code that would require a fence or buffer between these two uses.
That'd be a condition we'd have to place.
Right. I need to know whether there is certain circumstances, I believe, in code that requires a buffer, so that's why I asked.
Not in this zone, so.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So we kind of had a motion there.
Yeah, I mean, I would say at this point, move a motion to approve with the condition of fencing.
So you're adding,
Be just a little more specific. We've talked about fencing on the south border. We've talked about, and Don's talked about the dumpster pad will have to be enclosed, so it's not gonna be a visualized as you go down. But are you just talking on the south border, the applicant would need to know what the requirement was and staff would too?
Right.
Or does it wrap, that just needs specified.
Yes.
I mean, I would say we need to have it on the south border. I think if we put it on the west or any other places, I think you're gonna impede vision, but the south border.
At least the south border.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve with the conditions.
With city staff.
With city staff
and
conditions
Adding the
and-
condition for the fence to the south, is that correct?
Yes.
Then I will second that.
Okay. Do I need to ask the applicant if they're okay with that condition, or is that?
You can ask, but they don't have to be okay, or they can be
Okay. I just want to make sure.
I mean, you can ask, but the motion's made, so I would.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Stewart,
Yes.
Christopherson,
No.
Thayer,
No.
Bird,
no,
Hiltbrand,
Yes.
Romero.
Yes.
We're tied.
Motion passes, or is that tied?
Nope, you'll have to keep.
You have to keep talking.
Motion fails, correct. Oh yeah, because we're an even split, so no tiebreaker. No, we cannot. That's not part of the process. Sorry.
There was a public hearing
But that's been closed.
that's closed. That was a public hearing tonight.
It was tonight. They opened it to comment and close because nobody else commented.
All right, further discussion.
I think at this point, the reason for denial is based on safety concerns. Is that fair to say? What, if any, accommodations do we think we could make
And,
to
yeah,
resolve that?
What safety concerns do you have that are not already afforded, like in statute?
like, you know, in the first meeting, that's the reason I believe that they were put on hold. Now we've got the exact same answers to the exact same questions.
We asked them to put it on hold or to
Yeah.
see if they could rework the
And nothing was.
the radius here, which they did.
That's the one
Mhm.
item that was done.
And that's the one item that city staff has an issue with, and the one item that is actually part of a conditional use permit that would need to be conditionally permitted. As far as backing a dump truck in, we've been assured by city staff that they can and do often do that as their normal course of business. There's nothing strictly prohibiting or enabling
No.
the backing up for trash.
This,
As far as the road goes, that's outside of the property itself under review. That's part of whether the city wants to widen Belleville Lane or not. It's possible that the school district may have to change their routing for their buses depending on what they do, but that doesn't have to do with this property per se.
Yes, it does.
If it's, but it's meeting all of the requirements for the radius on the 25-foot radius there is city code. And so anything that comes onto this property would have that same radius.
I have a question regarding EMS vehicles for staff. Is there any code or requirement that requires a EMS vehicle to be able to turn around in a parking?
No, it's the same for sanitation. However, it was required and negotiated through the fire department, the location of the hydrant close to the corner. Under just reading this, the code simply, it would have met requirements with the hydrant that's located farther down Belva. However, the chief felt that we needed another hydrant in case you needed a second vehicle to enter. If the hose was already blocking the driveway, you couldn't accomplish that. So they added a hydrant in the corner of the property, close to the intersection to handle that.
There's no specific code or statute prohibition of the kind you're asking about. And the design review includes the police and the fire who have evaluated this prior to it coming to the body. That's what design review does.
This is a tough one for me, but because I understand the concerns, I do. But there is a process and design review is part of that. And like Brent has said, staff and those who are directly involved with some of our concerns, such as the dumpster and EMS or whatever it is, I think they've given it their blessing. And so I think at this time, I would be willing to rely on those experts and their testimony and that they believe this is satisfactory, and just not. I would be willing to change my vote to yes if somebody would like to make a motion.
I'll make the same motion that was made earlier.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve based on the findings and facts and conclusion of law and with staff recommendations and to require at least fencing the southern border. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right. We have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Christopherson,
No.
Thayer,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Bird. Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, we will move on to public hearing item number 2. An application for the initial zoning on property that is proposed to be annexed into the city of Chubbuck. The proposed zone is limited residential R2. The subject property is approximately 25.17 acres and is located approximately 1,900 feet south of Siphon Road. It is west of Cole Street, north of Church Lateral Canal, and approximately 970 feet east of Philbin Road. Do I have somebody representing the applicant? All right, good evening.
Good evening, Commission. My name's Tyson Knutson. I'm with Knutson Engineering. I'm the principal engineer representing Homestead Ventures LLC, Derek Leslie. Location of our office is 444 Hospital Way, Suite 527 in Pocatello. Thank you for hearing this application. This is an application for annexation and initial zoning. Mr. Leslie recently purchased this. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Good. Okay,
Correct. I'll clarify that real quick for the audience as well. So by city code, the commission, land use commission, here's an application for initial zoning. And then we recommend a zone to city council. And at that time, city council hears an application for the actual annexation of the property and the initial zoning. Did I get that correct? All right. Thank you. Please continue.
perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
For the clarification. The subject property is approximately 25 acres. It's currently in the future land use map as medium-density residential. The feed-in zonings, or the zonings that are appropriate for medium-density residential according to the comprehensive plan, start with R2 as the least dense, to R2P, and then R3. The applicant has selected to request zoning for this property as R2, the least dense option within the current land use map, according to the future land use map, and in accordance with the comprehensive plan. Just thinking of a couple other things. Maybe let's start with that. Is there any questions?
Are there any questions for the applicant at this time? All right, seeing none. Thank you, city staff.
Thank you. Don Mattson, Planning Manager. As you know, this is my first attempt to write this out. It's difficult to describe the location with only words. But it is in the middle of this section of a square mile.
Yeah.
The previous land use plan, which was approved in 2010, had a different layout than it currently. This future land use map was adopted just about a year ago, April or May of last year. Prior to that, the idea was that we should have nodes of mixed uses in different places and large nodes of commercial uses at major intersections. So right here in the center of this section was a spot for mixed use that included homes on both sides of Cole and west of the homes that face Cole. It was evenly split between down Cole Road, or at least the property line just west of there. And that was designated for mixed use. Mixed use allows for R1, R2, R3, and R4, so anything from single family to apartments, multi-story, or limited commercial, which is office things, daycare. Some commercial always requires a conditional use permit in C1. And then the bulk of the property was in the medium density residential. So the new plan, I believe, is a lot more reasonable to designate the area for mixed use and medium density residential than to apply the mixed use, which it'd be nice to have a little node, like a neighborhood grocery, a daycare right in the middle, but the properties just weren't developing that way. So the R2 zoning is appropriate there. It's, as Tyler mentioned, it's the most restrictive of those three zones that are allowed in the medium density, whereas in R1, the lots have to be at least 7,000 square feet, R2, it's 6,000 square feet. And then it goes smaller from there. But R2, again, is the most restrictive. Staff does support that. It completely complies with the plan. I know the neighbors are rightly concerned about traffic coming to the neighborhood. And traffic is always a two-way street. Eventually, that this property will connect to other ways in and out than just Cole Road or Cole Street. So the big picture, yeah, there's little growing pains. It was the same every time someone builds a new home. There's the person who was there first isn't happy with the increased traffic. I was fortunate to grow up on a dead-end cul-de-sac, but I do know that's a concern. But that's, Cole Road itself is wider than normal. It's a minor arterial street per the street map. But again, staff does support the zoning recommendation. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Go ahead.
I don't even know if this is appropriate to ask right here where we're just choosing it or, deciding on initial zoning. But, excuse me, I know there's a lot of concerns that have been raised about traffic, future land use, or future, the comprehensive plan lists Homestead extending out to Philbin. And I believe Sheba as well, or maybe not. It might be the
Just
one above it.
Homestead.
But okay, so just Homestead, extending out to Philbin eventually. Is that, I think you alluded to that, is that in the plan still? Is that
Mhm.
what, I guess, what does that plan look like going forward as far as making sure that that actually connects eventually?
The long range plan, as far as the street network goes, is it's not ironclad like a zoning boundary is. It has to go on parcel layers.
Mhm.
It can be adjusted based on the development and the availability of development. We did have, like, for instance, we do have on the street map, or we used to, a local street behind, just off of Yellowstone that would connect Ward Drive up to Laurel Lane, which would provide a much better access to the backs of the properties that face Yellowstone. But that wasn't happening. We had some utilities in there. There was a request to develop on Laurel Lane. And so staff recommended that that probably was a better idea than trying to hold out for that through street. Now the properties between those is developing as anticipated. So that really, unless the city had bought that or a developer had wanted to keep that open for his own purpose, that would be a different story. But that's an example. Sometimes those don't go through, or it can go through a similar location. So it doesn't have to be a straight shot. It would be something in the general area that the city strives for to meet the demands of the future. To develop without through streets, then you're forcing everyone out to a snarl on the section line roads. Having lived in Vegas for a while and Meridian, Boise area, that it's really difficult and less safe. I know some people feel it's more common sense to say if all the traffic goes there, it's better. No, you have higher speed traffic on the arterials when it can move, and it just increases in traffic. The streets inside of a section usually max out as the properties develop, but the section line roads may increase for many years because this development's farther out. But again, I'd be happy to answer any other questions, but staff does recommend approval, for approval of your recommendation to the council for their approval.
All right. Any questions? All right. Seeing none. Thank you. Before I open the public hearing, I do just want to explain quickly that this is an application for initial zone. So any subdivision of this property still does have to go through the subdivision process, at which point you will actually see with the roads laid out and the lots. And the applicant did provide a preliminary conceptual drawing as part of their packet that you may have seen. But as part of this meeting, they didn't have to do that. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're held to that either, or that is even what they will propose in the future. And so some of your concerns may be addressed at a later time when it's appropriate and not when we're just here talking about the initial zoning. So with that, I will go ahead and open up the public hearing and call for anyone to testify that is in favor of the application. All right, seeing none, I will call for those in neutral to the application that would like to testify. Your name and address for the record, please, and then the floor is yours.
Bruce Kennedy, 901 Wendy Street. So I butt up right against that. I'm neutral in the sense that most of my concerns are dealing with the future use. Given the fact that the future use plan does say that there will be an arterial exit on Philbin. And the fact that that is contingent upon the availability of that property extending through to Philbin. At this point, I don't think it's wise to make a decision on what that proposal is until there is some sort of for sure plan forward. Otherwise, you're going to have the problems with traffic and so forth. So
Thank you. Anyone else wish to testify that is neutral to the application? Hi, welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Jason Sutherland. I live on 900 Homestead Street. They're on the corner of Cole. When I got this letter in the mail, I thought of all of the future potentials and opportunities that the city of Chubbuck has, and I recognize that we need to grow. It's inevitable. But the lack of travel or throughways on this 25-acre lot, which I assume is probably somewhere around 90 homes. Average home, 2.5 vehicles. We're going to see the traffic on Homestead increase by a couple hundred cars a day at a minimum. It's landlocked. You're either going to have to come out on Homestead or come out on Sheba, and then you got to kick into Cole. I think that the traffic is the major concern that I have with the future growth. And that's before you even get the homes built. We have to deal with all of the construction for years to come. Our neighborhoods around here are full of children. We have a lot of young families that are out and about in the evenings with their kids, bikes, families, dogs. It's just a lot of traffic, and that's my main concern. Yeah, I sent a letter to the committee.
Yes.
Or rather an email, and
Yeah, we
I
received
voiced
it.
some other concerns, and that may be discussed at a later date, but I think that the traffic is something that I hope that you would all consider as we proceed. Mr. Kennedy here did mention that, kicking out onto Philbin, well, that's another dogfight, because somebody owns land back there, and they might not want to give up their pasture because they love their horses. You know what I mean? So, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else neutral that would wish to testify? Hi, welcome.
My name's Gerard Perkins. I live at 1098 Petersburg. And I agree with the prior two gentlemen. To me, this is an issue of traffic. You're going to come out on either Sheba or Homestead, and you're going to go north to Philbin, or you're going to go south to Chubbuck Road to go to work. And I drive Cole Street every day. And Cole Street has cars parked in front of every house, not every house, but the majority of houses. And right now, if you have two pickup trucks coming the opposite way, you're kind of pulling out of the way so you can give them room. That's an issue that you guys are really going to have to think about, because the prior gentleman's right. If without guaranteed access out onto Philbin Road for another way for people to go, that's going to be a problem. And so I realize that people have the right to sell their land. This is America. And, I think the R2 zoning, from what I understand, that is residential the whole way. There's no fourplexes, because if you start trying to use more high density use for that and then run people out of those kinds of places onto those roads, you're just going to have a mess. So that, I guess, is one of my questions. I know the builder's not here, right? Well, maybe he is, but what is his intent? Is it single family homes? Is that what we're talking about here? Or is that something I can even ask That would be something that I think would help people make a decision on this. You know, is what kind of buildings are going in here. I've looked at Mr. Leslie's current, some of Mr. Leslie's current properties that he's working on, and they're single-family homes. You know, they're kind of like startup homes, and, you know, I get that, and that works for that, I think. But if you do a higher density zoning, or it ends up being higher density, I think you're gonna have a lot of problem with traffic. So Cole Street is, I think this gentleman said Cole Street is fairly wide, but everybody parking cars out in front of their houses, it's not very wide. So drive down it, you'll see. Anyway.
Thank you. So anyone else wish to testify neutral to the application? All right, seeing none, is there anybody that wishes to testify in opposition of the application? Oh,
Hi, how are you guys?
welcome. Good, thank you.
Yeah, my name's Emma Theander. I'm at 867 Wendy Street, and I have a husband and two small kids. We've lived in our neighborhood for 6 years, and my understanding when I did my research that up to 190 homes can go on those two streets, and that's a lot of homes for the space that we live in. And I don't think that the R2 residential designation is appropriate for our neighborhood. If you can see, we're surrounded by single dwelling homes. And although there is some mixed use housing north of us, it really will change the dynamic of our neighborhood. Our neighborhood includes blind residents and lots of young kids, seniors, and just like the others have said, lots of dog walkers, kids on bikes, and I think that's the dynamic of having that R2 zoning, it just doesn't fit. And I understand when we moved in 6 years ago, we all knew that that field will be sold, but I think an R1 zone is far more appropriate. And I also believe it's consistent with the 2045 Chubbuck comprehensive plan. And I've seen historically that these zonings can be changed. And so that's my request, is that this be changed to an R1 zone to be more consistent with our neighborhood and the future planning for Chubbuck. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to testify in opposition of the application?
My name is Michelle Adams. I live at 5150 Doreen Street. Lots of people talk about traffic, but I'm here to talk about your resources. Like, we've come into some drought.
Can you bring the mic a little bit? Thank you.
I'm here to talk about resources. He was talking about, I think, a small grocery store getting put in there. You're going to overtax your resources. I moved out of the city limit to Philbin Road because you guys' water bills and stuff like that are going up, which is not consistent for having families in their homes right now. You're overtaxing the community with these developers because when you live in a desert, semi-arid desert, you're going to be like Utah, where you will limit people's water because there's too many homes. We moved here to Idaho because we loved all the parks in the neighborhood for our family. We loved the land not being overdeveloped. We loved having the American dream of, hey, you get to have room to play for your kids. You get to have the resources that's not going to overtax you because there's thousands of other homes that are using the same resources, and we're going to jack up your prices because of it. I have people coming to our home wanting to buy our land to develop it, and I would love for Chubbuck and Idaho to stay open and for our resources to not be jacked up because of too many people are wanting the same resources, and we're going to run out. We will run out. There's only so much you could do with the resources we have in this community and this city. You're also going to overfill the landfills because of all of those construction companies. What do they do with the excess of their building materials? It goes straight to the landfill. And I've already had the landfill jack up the prices in a year because there's too much. I would love for it to stay open and for people to, if they could do 1 acre lots under 300, for people to be able to farm. I was a person who wanted to farm my land and have a little mini homestead, but that's not what they want. They just want to come in and bring little houses, enough for you to showcase your home and use up the resources instead of providing back to the community. When you grow stuff on your land, you get to go sell it at the farmer's market. That was a great point also in this community. You get to make your own stuff and talk with your neighbors. But there's also apartment buildings that pop up and people are frustrated. They have it high over their fence. Who wants an apartment building looking over their backyard? It's like living in a fishbowl. Nobody wants that. I voted against, 2 years ago, I voted against somebody taking over the park to a developer, because I'm able to walk to 5 different parks and meet so many people, so many neighborhood friends, and so many people in our neighborhood because we're able to walk there. All of them are within walking distance. Those are great selling points. Not big developments. Also, within the year, we've had stuff taken from our home. When we moved here 6 years ago, we could leave stuff out on our front lawn. Within the past 6 months, we had stuff stolen from our yard. Who's coming into these apartment buildings and stuff like that? Who's coming in? We don't know. And you shouldn't have to background check people. You shouldn't. But the idea of having family-oriented ideas coming in is the best selling point. I don't want a mini shopping grocery store behind my house. I really don't. And I don't want our water resources overtaken either. There was this last point. 5 years ago, Yellowstone did a study and a story how they reintroduced the wolves back into Yellowstone, and the rains came back because they balanced out the elk and the bison from overgrazing their grass. Stop tearing down trees. Leave our resources as it is so the water can come. I guess that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the commission in opposition of the application?
Stephen Adams. Currently, we have kind of 2 houses right now, one on Canal Street, and we did just buy there on North Philbin. So kind of just barely be out of the city limits, enough to still walk to friend's house and things. I do have a couple questions though. There's a canal there. is the church lateral. It does grant some of those people on Philbin some water rights, and I do wonder about access to some of the head gates over there. It's a little concern for myself. Let's see, I am, as I understand it's America, cities grow. I do remember talking to some of the original Chubbuck residents. I believe the plan was like having a park every couple of streets. It was just kind of like the residential dream to have, kids playing. You can just be washing dishes in the middle of the day and you can hear kids playing outside. And it's a great thing. I do worry a little bit about the valuation of properties. Are they going up, down? And it's not quite touching my property over there, but I do wonder about how it's going to affect the actual private landowners over there. If you guys have a plan to continue to go over to Philbin in the future, do you guys have a plan about, are you buying these people's properties or something? Some of those are pretty large properties, $500,000 or more for market prices today. So I do you guys want you to make sure you think about the cost of, a lot of people brought up traffic, and you will need a couple of access points to that area, including Philbin. So it could be an expensive venture, possibly. So there's a lot to think about. And as apartments and stuff are going up everywhere in the city, I do wonder about city infrastructure, sewer, water, that kind of thing. So, I guess make sure everything is getting upgraded altogether. So those are my comments.
All right.
Stephen Adams. I own on Canal Street and also on Philbin.
All right. Anyone else opposed to the application that would like to testify? All right, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and well, if you'd like to testify, I do need you up here. Name and address, please.
Derek Leslie, 11072 Sage Hollow.
Are you testifying in opposition of your application?
Not in opposition.
Okay,
But
that's
were
what
you going to close the hearing?
I will close the public hearing. You're the owner.
Okay, so I can come back up.
Yeah, I believe the owner can come up during.
So after this, your agent or you can.
Okay,
address
I just wanted to make.
Yeah,
sure
you
that
guys can address.
I wanted to address.
I'll give you
some-
one. Yeah, yes, I will give you a chance.
But the hearing will be closed and then remarks can be made by the applicant.
Yeah. So any other members of the public other than the applicant or the owner that would like to testify? I'm not seeing any. Okay, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and invite the applicant or the owner or both of you up to address any of the comments or concerns.
Again, Derek Leslie, 11072 Sage Hollow. Just to briefly address a couple of the concerns that were voiced there. I do have every intention in this R2 zoning to do single-family homes. And sounds like the one gentleman that talked had done a little research about some of the properties that I've built in the past. And I do plan to not do any multifamily, no zero lot line twin homes or anything like that. As far as, so it'll be very much in accord with what's on Homestead, Sheba, in that whole area. Values of the homes will be every bit as much, and with the prices of new construction, oftentimes much more than anything else out there. So property values shouldn't be a concern. As far as ingress, egress, traffic and things like that, as this property develops to the north, there are going to be other streets I want to just point out that will go out onto onto Siphon Road. So as it does build out, there will be other ingress, egress out there. Right now, we're going to use existing streets that are in there, which as long as there's more than, or two ingress, egress it should satisfy city guidelines, and Tyson can speak a little bit more to that. But I just wanted to let everyone know what we plan to do in there.
Thank you.
So in terms of strategically locating where you would maybe want to develop, we've got Cole Street and we've got Homestead, which are minor arterials, and they're right adjacent to this development. As well as Mr. Leslie spoke about, there is a planned collector off of Homestead that would run north to Siphon as part of the comprehensive plan. And staff will make sure that as we proceed into pre-plating, if we can move forward today, that we'll be compliant with those conditions moving forward. I also wanted to speak a little bit about, Mr. Leslie spoke about the nature of the size of the homes or the house, the single family homes. The roadways are all going to be held to the standard. So we're going to see either matching sections. In fact, to bring it up, most of your codes have increased. And there may be some stipulations moving forward that actually require larger sections than your current sections are that are adjoining this property.
And when you say sections, can you just explain what that is?
Section just means a road width, a roadway width, and a right-of-way.
Thank you.
So it's something we're aware of as part of this application. We don't have to, we don't have to show a concept. We don't have to show a master plan. We will. And then we'll go into pre-plating and then all these new standards will be held to the developer. There was a comment about 190 homes. So this is just me from a developer and an engineer of developers telling you that we're probably going to see about 4 to 5 homes per acre when you factor in right away. And if we're giving more right away, according to new codes, it's going to be on the low side of that 4 to 5. So if you said 4 times 25 acres, that's 100 homes. It's not 190 homes. There's limitations when, some people might do a calculation and they forget that there's a road that has to be given to the city as part of that calculation. We've got some developments where we're doing some R2P zoning, for example, and at best we're getting 5 units per acre. So I'm telling you from experience that that's going to be probably about a number that we're looking at, not 190 homes on 25 acres. There was a comment about, hey, this ought to be R1 zoning, and I'm just going to say that we're not here tonight to do a map revision. So, that kind of a request, or a request meaning that we should change our application. There's a land use map. We're compliant with the land use map. We're picking the least dense option in the land use map. And if we wanted something else, we'd come with a map revision if we were looking for R1. We're not looking for it. Regarding resources, as we proceed into pre-plating, the city will address and answer those questions about, is there enough sewer? Is there enough water? If there's not, we won't get a will serve letter. If we don't get a will serve letter, we won't turn any dirt. So there's procedures in place after this that, everybody wants all the answers now. We don't have them all, and we don't have to have them all. This is just initial zoning. In terms of property size or minimum lot size, Don spoke of this, but really we're talking, on an R1, we're talking 7,000 minimum. On an R2, we're talking 6,000 minimum. Where that really comes is 70 feet of frontage or 60 feet of frontage. It's going to look the same. So we're planning to match those road sections and those home types and those home sizes as best we can, given the flexibility we have in the zoning. I did have some comments or some responses to the comment letter received. Emma Theander. I'm not sure if she spoke here tonight. She had some great, she brought up some great items. So one of the things that, and kind of speaking to traffic, and what that really means is, as part of proceeding and going into a pre-plat application, we got to come back here for a hearing. We've got to submit to staff a traffic impact analysis and/or statement, depending on the size of the impacts. Staff will review that and they'll make recommendation that we are, or essentially make statement that we are compliant or we've met the requirements of those, of that traffic analysis. I mentioned we're looking at similar cross sections and roadways according to the comp plan. There was some discussion about, or some questions about, like length of construction. And the best way I would probably describe that is, I would suspect Mr. Leslie, depending on market, will probably have, 20 to 40 homes open, not necessarily homes, but lots prepared and opened up in different phases. So if we just went with a simple number like 25 homes per phase, because he doesn't want to get so far out over his skis that he's so invested into the infrastructure, he's going to want to develop and sell and build and sell those lots. And so I imagine we'll probably have 3 or 4, maybe 5 phases related to these 25 acres. I would suspect that what we're seeing in this market is about every 2 years, we're opening up a phase. It's been better than that. I'm sure Derek can speak of building and selling 20 plus homes a year. But the market's kind of still coming back and we're seeing there's some inventory. The homes that we're going to see in this development are going to help people create that American dream that was spoken tonight. Not everybody can afford ownership. So we're doing the best we can to help and find opportunities. And the R2 zoning is a great zoning to help us get people into first-time homes. Again, the R1 zoning that was spoken of in letters and in recommendation here tonight it's not congruent with the future land use map. It's not where we are today. So we're here looking at what we can do with the future land use map, which is R2, the least end zone. And I like to always tell people this, that this isn't the only time they're going to have an opportunity to look at an application and tell us what they don't like about it, or give us suggestions on how we could make it better. So should we move forward, we'll be back here for pre-plat. Staff will review it. We'll have a hearing. Every pre-plat, whether it's the entire 25 acres or whether it's a phased development or like a phased plat, we'll have to show and tell and be able to respond to public's inquiry. So I'm taking a lot of time. I think I better give it a close, but I'm open to any questions you may still have of us at this time.
Go ahead.
I have a question, partially for maybe city staff as well as the applicant. Is a historical pattern, maybe not necessarily standard, do we have a standard for parks in developments, and after so many acres, there's a park, and what's your plan for? I know people that live in Chubbuck really like the parks program in Chubbuck and use those, and that was brought up tonight and not addressed.
So there's definitely a significant, so I guess there's 2 ways to address it.
One thing I'm going to say, that's not an issue for this. This is land use only. The developer can definitely answer that, and I think they're trying to help the public understand.
Right. I'm
just saying, if they choose not to because they don't know, that's not a criteria for tonight. But if they want to address it, they certainly can.
The easiest way to respond to this without making any sort of commitment is that we will pay Chubbuck's fee for their parks, and Chubbuck can decide where to put their parks. Am I right, Don?
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. I do want to clarify something maybe. Preliminary plats are not public
I was
hearings.
gonna say that, yeah, preliminary plat is not a public hearing process, but it's a public meeting process vetted according to the standards of the code, and so it would need to
But-
comply with.
yeah.
code. It is not a public hearing process, correct?
All right. Commission discussion or a motion?
Subject property meets the future land use and is the same as the zoning for the older area on Stone and Boyd and everything. So right in line with what is in the area. I know there were some concerns that were emailed in about maybe trying to put zoning in between. There is only one step between zoning. I don't see a problem with recommending to city council initial zoning in R2.
Make a motion to recommend to city council to rezone this to R2.
Not rezone, initial zoning.
Initial zoning to R2.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Bird,
Yes.
Thayer,
Yes.
Hiltbrand,
Yes.
Romero,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Christopherson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. We will stand adjourned.
See that?